4, 3, 2, 1. CTS Podcast, episode
13.
13.
Yep. Pretty uneventful week this week. Not much happened. I don't know. Probably a shorter episode this week because there's really not anything to talk about.
Did you see that picture of that moving truck in front of the White House? It was like a meme.
Yeah,
Did
the
you see
U-Haul
that?
truck, which doesn't make sense. Like if you think about it logically.
I know.
Like what
Who
do they do?
gave a U-Haul truck driver, or who's driving the truck? First of all, is it the Secret Service?
Probably, or they got vetted or something. But also, like, what are they doing? Moving out already? Like the presidents are like still moving out the day of, like, inauguration day. Or like, what was when Bill and Hillary were leaving? They like stole stuff. They like stole furniture.
Really?
Yeah, no, that's like a real thing. Like they took like utensils and stuff out of the White House.
That's kind of smart. You want to know what I heard? I heard that the presidential kitchen, like, you know how they cook food for the president? I heard they have to pay for that food.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. But can you imagine being able to order anything you want whenever you
Anytime.
want? You're president.
Hotel room service. Whenever
Literally.
you want. Yeah. It's
probably expensive though. I also heard they have a taste tester that actually tests the food.
like the medieval, like the poison people that would eat it.
Exactly.
Yeah, probably. That would make sense. That's crazy. There's so much. They've got like a bowling alley in there. Like
a movie theater.
What even is the White House?
The president is able to see movies before they're released to the public too.
That'd be so cool. That's why I want to be president.
Yeah.
It's just to see movies early.
I want to know if aliens are real. That's my number one reason. And I want to know what happened to a certain unnamed individual that committed suicide. Is that
anyways. Anyways. Yeah, so all jokes aside, the election this week, definitely the biggest thing. Did you expect it to go the way it did?
The pollsters did.
They didn't really, though, because they said Biden blowout.
They said Biden would win. I mean, they were off by 50% or more.
Everything was so
all
close.
Those swing states. They were off by 50 percentile points in many of those states. I mean, Pennsylvania, they had Joe at 90% to win, and he did. That's a bad example. Let's take, I guess North Carolina might flip too, but Georgia, for example.
But everything was just super close, right?
Is Biden going to win Georgia? I don't know. Look at Florida. They had Trump at like a 30% chance to win, something like that. Yeah,
and it wasn't really that close in Florida. But I guess it ended up going the way people expected. It got dicey there, though, for a minute. Like, it looked like it might swing Trump's way.
It did. Man, I just wish... what was I going to say? Shoot. Did you hear he's golfing? He's golfing right now. Apparently, inside sources tell CNN that he's furious.
That's always what I do when I'm furious about something, is just go hop on the golf course.
It's not a bad idea.
I don't know how trustworthy those sources are. It's like we talked about a couple episodes ago, like
the unnamed
sources familiar with Trump's thinking. Like, I think Trump is just like showboating in public, and then like in private really doesn't care that much.
Do you think? Well, they're gonna challenge the votes in Pennsylvania, Georgia.
But they would challenge it either way. Like, I don't, like, they on election night, they did that whole thing when Trump's team started, like, going, like, kind of revving up to start, like, legal action. And they're like, oh, Trump takes legal action against, or Trump threatens legal action against states. But then, like, the very next kind of segment was talking about Joe Biden's legal team setting up challenges in states that were close. So it's like they're always going to do that. If it's close, there was always going to be a legal challenge. There was going to be recounts in every state that's close. But I don't think it's going to matter. I think Biden's got it.
That's crazy. What will be crazy if Trump doesn't concede? That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I don't...
You think that Trump is just going to concede and leave?
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I'm 99% sure. I think he'll talk a big game for, like, the next month. And then once it gets down to it, it'll be like, all right, whatever, I'm out of here.
I don't know if you saw, but on MSNBC, Trump was giving a speech on like a couple days after election night, and he said, "We're up in a lot of key states. We've won a lot of states that we thought we wouldn't. We're up," and then instantly it cuts off the president. It literally cuts off the president, and the reporter goes, "We're not going to let the president continue to spread misinformation and lies." They cut off the president during his speech. Joe Biden gave the exact same speech. He literally declared victory before the voting was finished.
Yeah, it's weird stuff. It's definitely a double standard that people are, because Joe Biden's not the president right now, people are like, we don't really care if he declares victory. Like, what's he going to do? And because he's not Trump. So there's totally a double standard there.
Life isn't going to change under Biden. I mean, under any president. I mean, really, though.
You don't think?
I think it's... People always get so upset. Like, this time around, it'll be Trump supporters. They're, he's going to raise our taxes and destroy the economy. No, he's not. Like, I just don't think the president has the means to alter.
Well, he didn't get the Senate. That's the only thing that keeps me...
Yeah, he's not packing
the
Supreme Court.
Right,
That's
a little bit hopeful,
sure.
At least for 2 years, right?
Right, and even then, the Democrats have to defend all their seats because the Republicans defended them this time around. Now the majority of their seats this time around. Now the Democrats have to defend the majority of their seats next time around.
And Republicans made some gains in the House too.
5 seats, yeah.
5 seats, which isn't...
Could become more too.
Yeah, it's
one of them's in Utah. Burgess, has that race been called?
I don't think it's been called, but it looks like he's gonna win.
Ben McAdams, because he retook his lead, huh?
Ben McAdams?
Yeah.
No, I think Burgess Owens is still winning.
I checked yesterday. Maybe it was 2 days ago, but I checked and it said Ben McAdams reclaims lead in Utah Congressional District.
Because I was checking was it last night? I thought we were talking about it last night. Maybe not.
I don't think I checked it last night.
Oh,
I can't remember.
Well, either way, that was a lot closer than I expected it to be.
Yeah, it's weird because Salt Lake County voted with Biden, right? So it's odd that, I mean, I guess Ben McAdams, the way they've drawn the districts, there's a lot more conservatives in that district then. Right? Isn't there? Because he doesn't just represent Salt Lake County. He represents a few counties.
Yeah.
So we have 5 seats.
It's kind of the Salt Lake Valley, that area.
Yeah.
But I expected it to be a pretty significant win for Ben McAdams. Also, maybe because I was getting all the attack ads on Burgess Owens. That's part of politics that I hate, is those stupid attack ads.
I know. I think it'd be cool if there were just publicly funded elections and you only got a certain amount of money, so you could run one ad. I think they have that in Britain, don't they?
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure they have publicly funded elections in Britain. It'd be expensive though, dude.
But not more expensive than if you... I don't know. I think that it would be expensive for the government to have to pay for that, and would also disincentivize private groups from donating as well. I think though that I don't know. I just don't like the attack ads. Never once have I watched an attack ad and it made me think better of the person that funded the attack ad.
Biden wants to take away your guns.
Yeah.
Biden wants to defund the police. What are you going to do, America? Stand up.
I've never listened to that, and I'm sure it gets some people. I'm sure there's some people that are like, oh man, maybe Ben McAdams does
for sure
work with Nancy Pelosi, is in the Democrats' pocket. But for me, it's always just been this is so dumb. Tell me what you're going to do. Don't spend money focusing on tearing down the other candidate.
Do you think Joe Biden... So, 2024 now. Does Joe Biden run again?
No, he'll be 90.
You don't think he runs again?
No, he won't. They'll have Kamala Harris run.
Can you imagine if Trump runs again in 2024?
I don't think they'll do that either.
Really? You don't think the Republicans will embrace that?
Trump will
only lost by
Trump will be old in 2024 though.
He is. He's gonna be in his 90s. No.
No.
Late 80s.
Late 80s. I think though that they'll find somebody that they think can capitalize on kind of the Trump train. That phenomenon.
Who? Ted Cruz?
Jeb Bush. No, just kidding.
Can you imagine?
I don't know who it's gonna be.
Because I don't see another John Kasich or Mitt Romney getting the Republican nomination, at least for a long time.
You think like a Marco Rubio?
Dude,
maybe?
not after his run in 2016.
Yeah,
bro.
that's true.
Chris Christie, I could see Chris Christie's like a moderate, but he's punchy. I could see him running in 2024.
Yeah.
I've always loved Chris Christie. I don't know why. I just like his personality.
I don't know. That's an interesting one. And that was, yeah, it's weird that they have to start thinking about that now. Because Trump could run again in 2024. I don't think they'll do it, though. I think especially once Trump, like, gets out of the White House, has a few, like, 6 months to a year to, like, cool down, he'll be like, yeah, that wasn't that great. I'd rather spend the rest of my life just playing golf instead of dealing with that stuff. Yeah,
but he's so egotistical. I could see him running again, if not for anything but people cheering MAGA.
Well, what I do see him doing is starting a media company.
What do you mean?
Like
an actual media company?
Yeah, like his version of like OAN. Right? Imagine. Would that not be the perfect play for Trump right now after showing so much distrust in the media over the last 4 years to start his own?
It'll be so interesting to see if he does interviews and stuff after he loses. Because that'd be so interesting to hear what he has to say.
I bet. I don't know.
Or if he writes a book, he'll probably write a book.
Maybe. Well, he won't. His name will be on the cover. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And it's crazy that it seemed like that, like the Trump era would never end, like that it's lasted forever. But it's also like, man, 2016 doesn't feel that long ago.
Yeah.
Like it's already over.
Well,
not like I'm reminiscing.
I was only 16 years old, 15 years old in 2016.
Well, yeah, but it's also like, it doesn't feel like, I don't know.
It doesn't feel like Trump's been in office that long.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like 4 years. Not that I'm like reminiscing on like getting nostalgic about Trump being in office, but it's the thing that kills me is like kids on TikTok that are like, especially when the election was like close, like, oh, like I can't believe that this is like my life depends on this election. Like
I think that if, first of all, I just don't subscribe to the argument that Trump has fundamentally changed any rights. I mean, there's arguments that people call it a Muslim ban. There's arguments that the travel ban restricted access to the United States. Transgender people can't serve in the military. I feel like those are very, what's the word? I don't know. Maybe they have an argument. I don't know.
But the people that are like bawling their eyes out, like, I won't be able to be a woman in America if Trump gets reelected. He's been president for 4 years.
And you're still a woman in America. He's president right now. He's going to be president until next year.
What's he going to do? Like, what? I don't understand. And it kills me. The responses are always like, Trump's first order as president is to ban TikTok user at 13659. But it's just like, people are so reactionary, and it makes me, it's kind of upsetting, to be completely honest.
You think the Democrats run Kamala in 2024?
Yeah, for sure. I could see, you know who I could see? I could see the Republicans running Pence.
I couldn't see it. No way. Well, I mean, he would capture the Trump voters, but he's just so mainstream conservative. He's not populist. He's like a real conservative.
Yeah, he showed out pretty good in the VP debate this year.
That's because Kamala is
But she's going to be the Democratic nominee.
That's true.
So,
I don't know. If they run Kamala, they'll lose the next election.
You think?
Well, think about it. She was ultra progressive while she was running. now she's super moderate with Biden, and then she's going to somehow capture the more progressive voters in 2024 for a party that's getting more progressive by the day. No.
Yeah, it doesn't really. Well, that's why I was shocked that Biden picked her this time. Just that, like, two-faced kind of, just completely going back on everything she stood for.
Once you think about it, like, any candidate he chose would have been some moderate now. I mean, other than Tulsi Gabbard, who is in and of herself centrist most of the time.
Yeah, and you could do, yeah, I don't know who you could have done. Anybody but Kamala Harris. And the thing that, yeah, I'm not sure what they'll do in 2024. It'll depend a lot on what happens with the Senate in 2022, I think.
You think?
If they feel good about taking the Senate, I bet they push through a more progressive candidate.
Really?
Yeah.
See, if it'll be interesting to see. I don't think the Democrats take back the Senate in 2022. I could see the Republicans holding on. Well, maybe they will, because, I mean, if you think about it, they have the tie-breaking vote, so they only need 2 seats. It's 50 to 48. Is it 50 to 48?
No, it's 52 48.
That doesn't add up. 52-48.
And
is it?
Yeah, and
they have a 4-seat lead?
Yeah, because they had a 6-seat lead before and lost 2 seats. Did they lose 2 seats?
I know that in Arizona
they lost Arizona and Colorado, but then they picked up.
They didn't lose. Oh wait, they did, huh?
But then they picked up one other one. I don't know how it worked. I can't remember the exact numbers.
There's like a runoff too, I think.
Yeah.
Runoff election.
But there's also what was I gonna say? I can't remember what I was gonna say, honestly. Did you hear about that, like, Congress dude that died?
Yeah, and he died of COVID, and then people voted for him.
Yeah, and got elected.
Democracy.
Well, that's straight. That West Wing show that I know you haven't watched, but I've talked about. That's literally a major plot point in it. There's a congressman from California or something that has a heart attack before the election and then wins.
Really?
Yeah.
What do they do? Does the governor
just get a pick?
Appoint?
Yeah, the party just gets to pick somebody.
Huh. Interesting.
So, but it's kind of a crazy story. Like, how bad does his opponent have to be that he lost after the guy?
How about Oklahoma? Trump won all the counties in Oklahoma.
Every single county. That's wild.
Crazy.
Well, what's crazy is looking at the election map. Every single state is red, except for 3 dots where the major cities are.
That's bizarre, dude. And we talk about replacing the Electoral College because it's more representative, but once you think about it, it's more representative in some ways, and in some ways it's like people in cities decided the election.
Well, and all those people have very similar lives. So how representative is it? Like, there's no way to represent the minority if people with very similar lives are deciding it.
It'd be crazy if like you were saying the other week, if we had a 4th branch of government that like was parliamentary system, where because you gotta figure the parliamentary system is pretty representative overall, right? But I don't know. Have you been hearing about what's going on in Canada?
No.
With Justin Trudeau? He's caught up in like a corruption scandal.
Is he really?
Yeah, like bad corruption scandal. And I saw this interview. It was a lawyer or an attorney or something that was questioning him, and he asked a straightforward question. He was like, "How much money has your family directly donated to this nonprofit that was donating directly to Justin Trudeau and his policy efforts?" He said, "How much money exactly?" And Trudeau, who is like the most politician you've ever seen in your entire life, just the most buttoned up,
like a Kennedy base, like. Right.
But yes. But like some of his answers were blowing me away. And Canadian politics is so weird because the Conservative Party is essentially Democrats, right? They're the equivalent policy-wise of the Democrats in the United
Oh
States.
yeah, their conservative party is as progressive as the Democrats
right,
in
right.
the U.S.
And the liberals in Canada are liberal.
are like leftist, right? Like it's
Yeah. And I also heard, I don't know, I'm kind of just spewing, but I also heard Canada's giving out like 500,000 visas this next year because they're trying to stimulate their economy because they're in a recession right now.
yeah, it's kind of funny that maybe all the Trump voters that were mad about the election will head to Canada.
Go stimulate their economy.
Yeah.
Is Canada's the second biggest country in the world? Next to
Like
Russia?
by land
Yeah.
area? Yeah, but 90% of their population lives within 100 miles of the border.
That's so interesting.
So it's like Russia, right? Where there's huge portions that are unlivable.
Have you heard about that town on the northern border of the United States? It's like halfway in Canada and halfway in the United States.
Yeah, so it's like blocked off right now, right? They like can't get out. They're locked down because they closed the border with Canada.
Why? Oh, Corona?
Yeah, because of Corona. So that
Canada locked down the border or Trump locked down?
Canada locked down their border.
That's brutal.
Yeah, so they're like locked down. Like they can't really get in or get out except for like to get supplies. But yeah, they're completely locked down.
Isn't that weird how the United States was like the first to ban travel to the United States during COVID, and now everyone has banned us?
Yeah.
Our visa has like no power.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that, and Trump got called like xenophobic for it.
By Biden and Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah, when Nancy Pelosi headed down to Chinatown and proved her point, I guess, and then now it's like, and not saying Trump's responded well to coronavirus, but certainly
that was the one thing they did right.
That was not, and that's why then he completely flipped, right? Like they attacked him about it, and so he flipped and was like, then when they started saying, hey, like maybe we should actually like lock down and stuff, he was like, nope, you attacked me about the one thing I did, so I'm gonna flip.
What's your stance on coronavirus? Would you stay quarantined if Joe Biden came into office and was like 14-day mandatory quarantine?
It depends.
Would that make you mad?
My situation's completely different, right? Like I can't speak for someone living in like anywhere basically right now that's been out of work for months, is on like unemployment, doesn't have a job, and then all of a sudden we're gonna shut down again. Like I can't speak. So right now, if you were like, hey, like lock down for 2 weeks, I'd be like, whatever. But that's also coming from a position of privilege where I'm not really like locking down doesn't really lose me anything. I'm just doing school.
I think I can't really talk too much about what I really think because it's inappropriate. I think, first of all, I would be mad if the government came out and said that we'd have to do another mandatory quarantine. Because it's like, at one point or another, I mean, look at Sweden's response to the disease, right? No one wore masks. It was just, they were totally after herd immunity, right?
Yeah.
Except for elderly people. They took care of elderly people. That's what I think we should have done. We should have prioritized helping elderly people stay safe, social distancing, wearing masks. All of that stuff should have been implemented. And because we didn't implement it early, or there's some people that don't implement that stuff, now we're facing a second wave kind of coronavirus.
Yeah.
But I don't think the American people will go for another lockdown. They just won't.
I don't think so either.
At any point. Like in the UK, sure, they could do another lockdown just because it's very... I feel like the UK, since the Second World War, has been more of a family than a society. Like everyone there is like free healthcare. The parliamentary system there.
Not to interrupt.
Government.
Are you tapping the floor?
No.
You're not?
No, I'm dead serious.
Oh, what
I
the
haven't
heck?
touched the floor.
The cameras were shaking. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't even done anything.
That's weird.
Okay, now that I've been interrupted rudely.
Sorry, I wasn't tapping the floor and the cameras were
this
shaking.
Doesn't go into the podcast.
Nope, it's going in. I'm not editing it out.
Okay. Anyway, What was I rambling about? All I do is ramble.
Just
I
the
don't even.
lockdown.
I lose my train of thought.
Just how you were saying, right? Like
Oh, the
people
UK
aren't gonna
is a
go for the
family.
lockdown.
The UK is a family, so they do.
I don't know where you're going with that one. I'm sorry, I can't follow you
listen. UK, smaller country, lockdown, sure. The United States, they won't go for another lockdown just because it's such a political issue. We made coronavirus a political issue. And the effects another lockdown would have on the economy, I think.
I think it's more an economic issue than it is a political issue now. I mean, small businesses are getting destroyed. Like, they got destroyed by the first lockdown. A second wave of lockdowns, right when they're all trying to open up, would, kill them. Like, it's already 50% of small businesses? Or some crazy high number.
They projected like 50%.
Within the next year, 50% of small businesses. Another lockdown, especially. So maybe a 2-week lockdown works, but.
We should have just gone under one lockdown as a country. Just one 14-day lockdown and tried to prevent the spread of the disease. We should have done that early on and just called it good.
Or even if you just went like a month. Like we're super conservative about it and said, hey, we're going to lock down for a month. Like pretty much completely. And then after that, places, and obviously it's more difficult. We have, there's more travel and stuff. But if you lock down like super hard, shut down borders, like shut down travel, you could get it under control, I think.
Yeah. I think.
But hindsight's 2020, obviously, right? Like we didn't know how.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. No pun intended at all. We had no idea how this was gonna go at first.
We did though. Trump did know, kind of.
But at first we thought it was gonna be more deadly than it is. Now, like death rates are, tiny, right? Like even though infection rates are up, death rates are going down. We were worried about the burden on the healthcare system. We were worried about the economy. There are just so many things that, if you could look back now and say, hey, maybe we should have like locked down hard for a month, but people didn't think about it. Everyone was like, hey, like an extra week of spring break, that's sick. Like I remember thinking, okay, we're going to be out for a week and then come back for an extra week and then come back. And then now we're still kind of sort of locked down. And it's like 6 months later.
What do you mean sort of locked down?
Everything's not back to normal, right? Like stuff's not running at full capacity.
Yeah, like restaurants and movie theaters.
Especially, and we're a little bit in Utah, we're on the leading edge of opening back up. We're right on the cutting edge. But if you think about places like California and New York, like restaurants are at like what? I think they're only allowed to be at 25% capacity and they have to be outside.
Yeah. Thanksgiving. You want to know what coronavirus policy is?
In
California. You can have 2 or 3 households there. Everyone has to be wearing a mask and it has to be outside. I think maybe I know I'm not alone in this, so I'm going to say it. I think that's ridiculous.
Well, what's crazy is the I'm not libertarian or whatever, but I don't think the government should really be able to tell you what to do if you applied it like completely like across the board, like we have the same standard. If we see you in gatherings larger than that, like you're gonna get you shouldn't even like get arrested or anything, but if you enforced your policy like straight across, we're super consistent with it, then maybe I could see the argument. But we're gonna say, hey, you're not allowed to have more than 3 families for Thanksgiving, but also I really support those protests going on down the street. And like the Lakers parade, when the Lakers won, or not parade, they didn't have a parade, but those videos of that stuff was crazy. There were so many people. So many people on the streets. Like, it looked like it looked regular. Like, it looked normal. Like,
People want a return to normal, I think. And I think everyone's ready for the shift for it to be normal, because you can go two ways, right? You can make the argument that nothing will ever come to normal again, and we have to all lock down until this disease just magically disappears.
well, once a vaccine.
Sure, that could be years. They say months. I have my doubts. Or you could say, look, this is something that we're going to have to deal with. It's a disease. The survival rate is high. And it's just something you have to get used to. We have to go back to a normal way of life.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of countries have realized. And I think the issue's gotten so politicized here that it's hard for people to kind of come to terms, like, on both sides. It just has to be such a one way or another. No one can, if you say, hey, I think we should open back up and just support elderly people, like, they stay isolated, we try and do that. It's like, oh, so you're like, you like Trump, whatever. But if you say, like, oh, I think we should, like, lock down, it's like, oh, you don't care about the economy's gonna crash. So I don't know. I want to talk to you though, that while we were talking about the vaccine a little bit, I saw a story the other day. I was on my computer doing school stuff, and the little, like, notification for a news story popped up. The headline: man associated with coronavirus vaccine trial in Brazil dies. That's kind of scary, right? Like, the coronavirus vaccine, like, did it kill this dude? I go to the story. He was in the trial group that didn't receive the vaccine. Had nothing to do with coronavirus. Can you believe that?
Who posted that story?
This was CNN. This was like CNN, I think.
Dude, how about during the debate with Mike Pence when Kamala Harris said, I'm not taking it if Donald Trump tells me to take it. I'll take it if Dr. Fauci tells me to take it. And then
okay,
Mike Pence
anti-vaxxer.
goes, I know. And then Mike Pence goes, spreading that fear among Americans is really dangerous. And you need to be very careful about saying stuff like that. And she's just like, ha 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 ha. I'm Kamala Harris. I laugh condescendingly.
Yeah, that's crazy. And that's because what if Trump had done that? What if Trump had said, hey, if Fauci comes up with a vaccine, I don't know if I trust it.
People would have lost their minds, and Trump supporters would have been on his side.
Minds, yeah. And then, but when it's the other way, it's like, yeah, no, I don't think I'd trust a Trump vaccine anyways. It's like, doesn't make any sense to me.
I want to ask you, election uncompromised, question mark.
I don't think if there is any fraud, I don't think it's 100% a perfect system. I don't think any fraud that there was changed the result of the election.
I think I'm the same way. There's like this conspiracy theory going around that I don't subscribe to, that Trump watermarked all the ballots. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense because
he
the
doesn't
states,
have access.
well, the states are responsible for their own ballots.
Right,
I don't know.
They print their own ballots, right?
Yeah, so that doesn't make sense at all. And even if it did, there's like election workers like observers in every polling location that would have caught that. Like, people aren't that dumb that they'd go, like, they're counting their ballots, they pull this one has a watermark on it, pull the next one, it doesn't have a watermark on it, and they're like, whatever. Like, what and how? I don't think Trump's as dumb as some people make him out to be, but he's also not this, like, evil genius mastermind.
I know someone was asking me about it, and I was like, I don't know if Trump has the wherewithal to come up with a plan like that.
Well, that's like James Bond or like that's like a movie, right? Like, that's one thing I've noticed in the last while, that people turn things into movies. Like, people are so out of touch with reality. That's part of my argument with the Trump, like, not conceding, people, and not you, but I've seen people that would be like, Trump's not going to concede. We're going to have to go in with the military and remove him. Like remove him from office. Like the plot of the next big action blockbuster movie is going to happen in real life.
This year kind of has been a movie, though.
This year's been crazy, but maybe it's an exception to the rule. But I think people exaggerate it, and it happens. The election thing is, there's so many just people are like, oh, there's plotting, there's different election systems are rigged, and I don't think they'll look at it. I'm totally happy for them to look at it, because if there is fraud, I want them to catch it. But I think they'll look at it and not find anything.
You think the Supreme Court will?
Yeah, or at least they might make some committee somewhere that looks at it, like some Senate committee that checks it out. I don't think they'll find anything significant. And there's so much misinformation going around about it too, like about different like dead people showing up on election rolls and things that's just hard to verify, either blatantly false, hard to verify. Even if it's true, it's kind of a misinterpretation of it. And so I think we should just wait it out, give it like 2 or 3 weeks, and everything will kind of settle down, and it'll be kind of a certain that Biden won, and it'll calm down.
I hope so. I want Trump to just concede.
I
sure
will.
There's some fraud, like concede now.
Right now?
Like now.
Oh, I don't think he'll do that, and I wouldn't.
Biden won Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but they'll look at it. And I don't know. I wouldn't expect it any other way. That doesn't bother me as
Biden
much.
wouldn't concede.
Well, they told him not to, right? Hillary Clinton said, no matter what the results are on election night, like, don't concede. That's kind of crazy. But just take a look, like, give it a fair look, and whatever comes out. And I'm 99% sure it'll come out that there was no fraud, and I think Trump will concede.
I just don't think. Sorry. I don't think there's fraud on a wide enough scale to tip the scales in any state or any election.
What makes me nervous is how close it was in some states. Like, I mean, Georgia at one point was like 1,000 votes separated them for like several hours. The difference was 1,000 votes. So that's where I'm like, well, I don't think there's fraud, but there wouldn't have to be much to tip this. So I would hope that the results come in and Biden's up like 100,000 in Pennsylvania, gets up like 20,000-30,000 in Georgia. Nevada's not close, Arizona's not close. Just so that it's like, okay, like we'll look at it, but we don't have to look too close, because there would have to be like widespread fraud for this to change the results of the election. Yeah.
Imagine after the recounts, like after Biden has declared victory and projected to win, Trump recount. If the votes are recounted, he wins. Can you imagine?
The scenes, just absolute scenes.
People would feel so dumb. Have you seen the Trump supporters crying on TikTok?
I've seen both. So there's Trump supporters freaking out, then there's also Trump supporters. There's that trend that's like them taking down the Trump flag, and it's like, which
we support you, Biden.
To be fair, that's a lot more mature response than when Trump was elected. Then
again,
that was close.
That was almost did it again.
But that was a lot more mature response than when Trump was elected. And I hate seeing people like the Trump supporters getting like clowned on. It is so dumb to me, because obviously they voted for him for a reason, and you're not going to convince them they were wrong or to vote for like your candidate by saying, haha, you're so stupid, like you're an idiot, like just bashing people. That just doesn't make sense to me.
From both sides. Yeah.
Oh, both sides do it for sure, but since the Democrats won this time, right? It's more they're attacking the Trump supporters, and it's like, what does that accomplish? Like, that literally doesn't accomplish anything.
I was gonna ask you about one more thing. Now I can't remember. See, I asked you about the election. So, what does Joe Biden do in his first 100 days?
Nothing. He doesn't have the Senate.
You don't think he gets anything done?
No, I think he gets
He'll
some
do a
stuff
bunch of
done.
executive orders.
He'll
about
do
the
some tax
environment.
stuff and environment stuff.
I wonder who's gonna choose for his Secretary of State.
I don't know. Hopefully Bolton. No, just kidding.
Hopefully Hillary Clinton. For the
Could you
second
imagine?
time around.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
No way. No way does that
AG?
happen.
I wonder who he chooses for AG. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm shocked Pennsylvania voted for Biden after his stuff about fracking. I heard that in that debate and went, he might have just handed Trump the election, because I thought Pennsylvania was going to be the deciding factor the whole time, and I thought he handed Trump Pennsylvania with that. It's just shocking that still went Biden's way.
It's weird. It just shows, that on election night, I was thinking, wow, Trump actually won. But all those late votes came in, and they were all for Biden.
What's crazy, though, is it was really close, right? The election was really close. What if there hadn't been a pandemic? Trump landslides.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even close. Like,
100%.
Trump almost won with the worst health crisis in modern history, like in recent history, in the last 100 years. And he was a few thousand votes in a few states away from winning. If coronavirus doesn't happen, he might win like all but 4 states. Like, it might look like a Reagan map.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about that, actually. It's true, though.
Because everyone cares about the economy. That's the top issue for everybody, is the economy.
I think people complaining about Joe Biden's taxes is a weird one. His tax system. You know how he, like, above $400,000 a year, taxes that income at like 56% or something weird like that. I saw a bunch of people complaining about that.
Yeah, and I sort of subscribe to the argument that it's like, well, don't worry about it unless you're making over $400,000 a year. But also, if you, I don't think it's isolated, right? The effects of it are isolated. Because what about the person with, like, that makes $1 million a year on rental properties and is now taxed like a bunch extra from Joe Biden's from the taxes? What do they do to combat that?
They shelter their funds in an LLC,
or they raise rent.
Yeah,
right.
I guess
so
they could.
I think it affects. It's not isolated, and I don't think there's quite the effect that people are making it out to be. That it's gonna like completely destroy the economy and like hurt people that are outside of it a ton. But I think there is an effect. I don't think it helps people that are have less.
And see, I agree, but I think that's more just the ineptitude of the government doesn't help people. I think generally raising taxes helps the lower and middle class, raising taxes on the rich, but it only helps the middle class and the lower class when the government actually spends that money wisely.
But do you trust the government to do that?
No. That's what I'm saying. That's why the system's broken, because ideally I would tax companies like Amazon at 60-70%. But the problem is,
don't they just leave though?
I've never subscribed to that belief, because I think if you're going to tax Amazon at like 60-70%, I think there should be drawbacks or benefits to staying. So for example,
but that's
and
what
there kind of is right now.
That's what
right?
the tax breaks
I
are,
know.
right?
There kind of is right now, but when you have Amazon paying 0% in federal income tax, that's a weird one. I think Amazon should be getting taxed, and I think if you leave, then you tax incoming goods into the United States. because no one buys like the United States. No one. So you can leave, but just plan on getting hit with insane tariffs and insane taxes on your products in the United States. And for those that develop and manufacture them in the United States, you're going to be undercut by a lot.
Yeah. It's just tricky. It's like, who do you want to give the money to? Do you want to give the money to the corporations or the money to the government? Like, who does a better job of distributing that? And I think the government is in a better position to distribute funds, but also I think the government's kind of inept when it comes to using taxpayer money to really help people. I don't think they have a track record of doing a good job. But at the same time, who knows? I mean, Trump's tax cuts saved the average family like $2,000. So does Biden's new tax plan undoes what Trump does? So it costs the average family $2,000.
I've heard it will.
Yeah, it will, right? So he's going to undo what Trump did, and it'll cost the average family $2,000 that they saved with Trump. And then, however, and not like trickle down has a negative connotation when it comes to economics, but how does taxing wealthier people and corporations affect people that don't fit in that tax bracket but will still bear some of the burden of that?
In a perfect economic system, it'll affect those people positively, but in our current economic system, taxing the rich has historically not translated to a better economy. And in other countries like Germany, Sweden, there's a few others, I think Australia, that have instituted just a higher tax, like a wealth tax. Historically, it hasn't worked. So ideally, if you were to ask me what the marginal tax rate on someone making over $400,000 a year would be, I'd probably agree with Joe Biden, somewhere in the 50% range on everything over $400,000. But the problem is, I don't see that money being funneled down to those who need it or invested in programs that are actually beneficial to Americans. So it's like, what do you do? I don't really know.
And how do the wealthy people make up for like the extra taxes? They're not just gonna sit and take it. I just think.
How do you mean?
Right, like if someone says, hey, like if you sell that for $10, I'm gonna take $4. Then I go, hey, I'm gonna sell it for $14 now. So you can take.
That's why I think there should be like the Consumer Protection Bureau. I think there should be more regulation over price.
That's a lot of government oversight.
I'm for government oversight.
That's a lot of it, though.
As long as it's done well, I don't mind more government oversight.
I just don't know if
We've talked
it'll
about
be done
this
well.
too.
Yeah.
Like, we've talked about how I would ban automated trucks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I would do that I'm fine with the government getting involved in. The problem is I don't trust the government to get involved effectively, and I surely don't trust Joe Biden to do it. If you were to tell me Bernie Sanders would do it, I would have voted for Bernie Sanders. But I don't trust Joe Biden to implement those policies, and I think Bernie Sanders was literally threatening to primary those Democratic challengers that opposed his ideas. He said he would support people to primary them. So it's like, I probably would have supported that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It'll definitely be, the next year will be super interesting to see how much things change, if things change at all, if they stay. I would guess things largely stay the same. I think CNN and MSNBC might go out of business because they won't have anything to talk about.
Can you imagine?
What?
Joe Biden gave a press conference today.
He said,
that's it.
He said the ice cream was good. You listen to the press conference and he's talking about like starting a war. They won't question him.
Joe Biden threatened to attack Russia today. I really think Joe Biden is doing the right thing here. Russia has been blah, blah, blah. It'll be ridiculous.
But they've made their money the last 4 years. Like, Trump was the best thing to happen to those news networks because it gave them 24/7 content for 4 years. And now what are they going to do? People are only going to listen to you pitching like administration officials softball questions so much before they get tired of it. How it's not interesting. It's not going to draw any viewers. They're already struggling for viewers. They're viewers that are like an all-time low. It's going to be interesting to see.
Should we call it there?
I think so.
I think
Let's do it.
How long have we been doing this? I don't even know. I feel like this is a shorter one, but
Yeah,
I really